Howdy all. We had the long weekend. We had media day at the Stanley Cup final, which I was pleased to be at, and we had game one of the Stanley Cup final. We're going to talk about that on the show. Eklund will be joining us any moment now, but Russ, you wanted to pick a bone with someone.
Yeah, with Damian Cox, or Damo Spin on Twitter. He look, he was frustrated obviously with the disallowed goal yesterday in the game. At the end of the day, we'll probably talk about that on the show. But his point was that the game's not being very well viewed in the U.S. as is, and this isn't going to help it. And I decided to fact check that. And so I went and I looked and I saw that they did 4.89 million viewers. Now, you're always going to get these Twitter guys that say, well, that's 1/10 of the population. Yeah, well, guess what? Like, that's a good number. 4.89 million is a good number. Actually, I believe that it won the night for NBC, the TV viewing evening. It beat out shows like Gotham and other things. So my point is, you could say that this is affecting how the game is viewed and how people view it in the States, and they don't have as much interest because of it. But it's not true because the numbers say otherwise. That's all I was talking about. I wasn't talking about whether I like the rule or not. I just put a fact up there. That's all.
Well, and we'll talk about the rule. And I floated something on Twitter yesterday.
And I will say this. I want to give retort. His answer was, if you say so. Now, if I was going to give another answer, which I don't, I usually don't try and pile on, my answer would be, it's not me saying so. These are real numbers. This is right. These are television ratings.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what day the Stanley Cup final. I think it started about a week and a half later last year because of the well, no, wait.
Because of all the game sevens. It definitely was a little later.
I think it started in like June the 7th or June the 8th or something like that. And it was at the same time as the NBA final was going. And this year the NHL benefits from the fact that the NBA final was delayed because, the Cleveland and Golden State just swept through both the Eastern and Western Conference. So they're not starting until Thursday. So the NHL benefited from the fact that they had no competition in terms of sports other than maybe the regional baseball coverage on Memorial Day. And most of those games were Memorial Day afternoon games. So they had pretty much had a clean slate, and almost 5 million for the, this isn't Canada. I mean, Canada's got a population, I think, of around 35 million, and the Stanley Cup final, it's hockey's a religion there. You're going to have 50% of the population probably watching Hockey Night in Canada, as am I. But, I think that was a good number. It was a much better number than it would have been on NBCSN. That was
actually, and here's a really good number. In the age group of 18 to 30, that prized age group, up 42% from last year. Yeah.
I mean, that's good stuff. I mean, so, yeah, I mean, I try not to take Damian Cox to task. I mean, it's just, I understand.
I generally don't either, but when I see something like that, and I live in the States, and I know that people are talking about this game last night, I had to investigate. That's all. Yeah.
Just touch on one thing before we get started with the show here. Like I said, Eck will be here any second. I know it's a different sport, but I just wanted to sort of bring it up. And, we haven't had many fights in the playoffs in the NHL. But we had a fight in Major League Baseball yesterday that seemed to bring a whole, slew of controversy. And it was Hunter Strickland, pitcher for San Francisco, beat Bryce Harper from the Washington Nationals on the hip, and Harper charged the mound through his batting helmet, threw it about 50 feet wide, and then they proceeded to have what I would consider like about a 5-swing fight, which is basically a baseball fight, normal baseball.
And nobody connected. It was ugly.
Yeah, it was a slap fight. I mean, there was one good connection where I think Harper hit Strickland in the face, and then one of the San Francisco pitchers came in and tackled, and it was basically over with. But the grudge that Strickland had on Harper lasted 3 years, going back to a playoff series between the Giants and the Nationals in 2014. And usually grudges in hockey are settled pretty quickly, even in game, even in the same game. I mean, go back to John Scott, with Kessel. I mean, Kessel in a way handled it by swinging the stick at him.
Right.
The Milan Lucic, Ryan Miller thing, that was settled the next game. You never see it linger for.
Well, the Brandon Manning one lingered, if you remember.
Yeah, but that was a year. That's probably at the extent. That's the lengthy.
That's the longest one.
Yeah, a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think. I mean, I'm surprised that something would linger that long in baseball, especially when they play these teams every year and multiple games a year. But it's one of these things now where guys are just throwing too hard, and the pitchers hold the hammer. So somehow Major League Baseball needs to correct this and not always penalize the guy who charges the mound, because the guy who charges the mound is reacting. He's a reactionary guy.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, sorry. I'm back home briefly.
Okay.
It's an incredibly long story how I got there, but I will share that with everybody else because you were live, I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that. Hi, Ren. Sorry for being late. Continue on with what you were saying. Sorry.
No, we were done. We were just trying to talk anything but the game.
Okay, good.
So read it off. Let's go.
Have we started the show officially?
Yep. Just do the intro.
Okay, got it. Cool. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, May 30th, 2017.
Thursday?
No, it's not. The hell.
It's Tuesday. I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Hi, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry. And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. Sorry, I've had a lot of travel nightmares the last couple of days, so I'm here, but I apologize. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. I don't apologize for that. I do apologize for everything else. But yeah, and we now have one game to talk about, the Stanley Cup Finals, and let's get right to it, shall we? This was one of the strangest Stanley Cup Final games I've ever seen. I mean, I really felt as if, so I'm sitting there with my, getting texts all over the place. Got my phone there, getting texts, and all the people texting me, of course, Flyers fans or what have you. A lot of them, why does the NHL want Crosby to win? Why does this? This is the beginning of the game, And I'm sitting there, I'm saying, listen, it's not the referees aren't trying to throw the game, and it's not that. I said, referees do make mistakes. I said, Sometimes they make mistakes for one team more than the other, and that's just what happens. They're not trying to get something, and that's really been my, I've always felt that way about referees. I don't think for a second anyone is trying to give a game to another team.
No.
That being said, what happened in the first period was very much everything that could have gone against Nashville did, and that definitely that was a fascinating period because the Predators came out storming. And then that goal, and we should talk about that goal first. So okay,
let's talk about that.
Disallowed goal. Russ, thoughts?
Well, my original thought, and I'm an honest guy, is that's a good goal. But here's where, and I was chatting with Jillian Fisher on Twitter. Right. Here's where it changed. They showed a replay. I still say good goal. They showed another replay, and this is on the monitor on the table that we get.
Right.
They show another replay. I'm thinking good goal. They show another one. I'm like, it's a good goal. I'm getting ready in my mind to tweet that, hey, this is a good goal. And then they showed this other one, this other look. And you know what? You saw the white. And then I said, you know what? This is not a goal. And 2 seconds later, it wasn't a goal. And so do I like the fact that goals get taken off the board for this? No, I don't like this at all. But is it the right call? Yeah, it's the right call.
Yeah, and I think the replay that you're talking about is and it was Forsberg, correct? That was the guy who was the one who.
I think it was. Yep. Yes.
The puck is going over the blue line, and his right skate is up off the ice. He basically hit the toe of the skate on the ice, and as the puck is crossing, he's bringing his right skate in the air over the blue line. And you can see it. There's because
All right.
there's no way that he could have connection to the ice and be moving his foot like this.
Yeah, and that's where you saw the white, like the fuzzy white.
Right,
and that I don't disagree. And if you can go down to the fact that of the skate was ever so slightly off the ice, I get that. I get that. But the rule is too, the player has control. Now, you can say he's taking the pass, right? And I know people are going to say he's taking the pass, but he doesn't have control yet. He had control of that puck because this is my theory. Okay, this is my feeling, because the reason he is taking his skate and he's already making his move with the puck. That skate move is not. He doesn't have to move his skate to receive that puck. He receives the puck. He's moving his skate. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. That's why this rule needs to be changed. But I'm saying you can interpret it that way. You really can, because
to have control, he had to have had possession. And the thing was, he didn't have possession. He was taking possession of the puck as it was being passed to him. He didn't. If it was on his
the speed at which he does, he was completely in control of that puck. Like, that puck had hit his stick before the skate comes up. So if we want to get down to the micro things, it does hit his stick. Now, how long does it take a player at the NHL level to have control of the play?
Right, that's the big question.
And this is where this rule sucks, because I said it right after, as they were reviewing it, go to the NFL breaking the plane of the blue line as the rule, and you eliminate all this crap. You eliminate having to micro analyze the skate. It's whether you have a camera on the blue line on the plane, and if it breaks the plane, if any part of his skate or any part of his body breaks the plane, then it's onside, and if it's not at all, it's offside. That's what you do. And Gary Bettman brought this up in the State of the NHL press conference before the game, and to my mind, it's sort of, he looked, of course, the controversy comes up 5 minutes into the first period.
Right. Immediately, and also
they're completely happy with it. That's what he said. Everybody's happy with it. They like the results. He quoted statistics, so they're not going to change it.
I know. I mean, it doesn't. Well, okay. Here's the NHL thing too. Like, the NHL is 100% behind something until they're not. Okay, we know that. That's the way they are. So when I hear him say that, they're going to say this. They have to put on this, and they'll put out this incredibly forward thought that they know exactly what's going on. That this is 100 there, but then they'll change it. And so I don't think it's one thing to say that they won't change it. It's another thing to say.
Well, not for this season. I don't think they're going to change it for this season.
No, can't change it now. But because you're here, you are, right. But
and I think that's all you could take them on, is face value for that.
Here's the other thing that I think needs to be: if we're going to continue with this rule like this, okay, the way that play continues, it continued for such a long time after that puck was actually entered into the zone. Okay, there needs to be a time limit in my mind on this. Okay, you can sit there and say the puck never gets in the zone, but if a team, the other team had possession, the Penguins had possession a couple times even and couldn't get the puck out. This is all continuing. If the other team has possession of the puck and it's been in the zone for more than 10 seconds, that offside no longer has any bearing on that play, in my opinion. And that's the other thing that makes me insane about this rule.
All right, so here's the other controversy though. And Andrew Berkshire just tweeted to me, and so I want to answer him on this, that he said, based on the HD replay of the Forsberg call, that his skate's still on the ice. What he is referring to, and I spoke to Pete Weber in between periods, there's one 4K feed that most people don't get to see because they don't have a 4K television.
Yeah, I do.
And that's what it appeared. Yeah, but you probably didn't get a 4K feed.
Right. No, I didn't on this one.
Right. And so that's what he's talking about, where it did look like it may be the wrong call. But guess what? They don't have a standardized 4K feed. And Pete and I were talking about this, and we don't believe there's a tablet that you could use that has 4K technology built into
all
it.
Tablets are all iPad Pros are 4K.
Yeah, but Pete said it was only like half the resolution, not the full 4K resolution.
No,
that's what he thought.
No, from my, I don't know. I'm saying that's.
But again, that point is moot if the rule is the way the rule should be instead of the rule the way it is right now.
Right. Yeah. The way you're saying it, yes, right. It would make it a moot point. Are they going to change it? We know they're not changing it now, and are they going to change it for next year? Probably not.
Right. No, I get it.
And you can't say, and you can judge by the score how much, but you can't say that didn't affect Nashville, because I thought that they sort of their confidence for a time crumbled after that.
Well, and I think that's right. I think it did affect them for a while, but here's the other things that happened. When Pekka Rinne's in goal, when he makes a save, he's pushing everything to the corner. If it's on his, and so Ekholm gets on the ice late and clearly doesn't have his head in the game and gets right in the way of the puck and knocks it in the net. Like, that was like just added on to what Mike said was they weren't feeling great already, and now you just added on to that with a boneheaded play.
Yeah, with 16,
that hurt them.
With 16 seconds left to go in the period. I mean, that
hurt them.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that definitely hurt him. I agree. No, there was. I mean, and listen. I mean, this game. I mean, Pierre. Is it who does the NHL broadcast? Montreal announcer. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it's Houde, right? Houde. Who's one of the Montreal Canadiens announcers. He's called 2,700 games. I was reading this. Called last night's game one of the top 3 strangest games he's ever seen.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, live. I've been covering live since 2003. Strangest game I've ever seen, and I've been watching them forever, except for when it was on Sports Channel America. But otherwise, I think it is the strangest game I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, and I tried to write today in my blog today. Did we learn anything from this game at all? And I don't think we did. I don't think we learned.
I think we did. I learned a few things.
Okay, what did we learn?
Okay, so here's what we learned. At the game, I was sitting next to a guy who, and when it was 3-0, said Penguins will never blow a three-goal lead. And I looked at him and I said, "This is the Stanley Cup. Weird things happen in the Stanley Cup when there's this much pressure. I'm not willing to go there. I don't think Nashville's out of this game." So we learned that Nashville can come back even under the most extreme, dire circumstances. And so they did that. And they've been doing that pretty regularly. They've been able to come back. Now, that's one thing we learned. We learned
that I get that Nashville can come back, and I think
Mike Sullivan sat on that lead when it was 3-0, which is why they didn't create any shots, because where my vantage point was, I kept seeing stuff that was going on in basically the end where I saw the 3 defensemen lined up and they're all pushing the puck out of the zone, and it was like the hot potato, and they did that for at least half a period. And so they were sitting on that 3-0 lead. That was a mistake too. So we learned that, hey, Mike Sullivan, while everybody's canonizing him, that's a bad coaching error.
Mm-hmm. This gets back to my original thesis about the Penguins that I've made 1,000 times, that they don't want to be an attack team. And that when they got up 3-0 and then they went into their counterattack game, because that is what they do best, and that they figure that Nashville is going to make a mistake here or there, and they're going to get the 2-on-1 break the other way and score the goal, which eventually they did. But they didn't get that goal until the game's tied at 3, and it really wasn't a huge break. It was just a sort of a little bit of a break. But the Predators are too good defensively for the Penguins to play their normal game against.
I don't think,
but they weren't good defensively for a period. The Predators' defense. Right. It took a while for their defense to kick in. For the first period, their defense wasn't good.
And I don't think this was a Pittsburgh-centric problem. This has been a problem. This is coaching 101 for this entire freaking playoff. Alain Vigneault sits on the lead against Ottawa. Ottawa comes back. J.G. Pageau gets 4 goals. You cannot sit on a lead. You cannot sit into a 1-3-1 trap and expect to just kill the clock. It's not possible in this league with the speed and the skill that's available anymore. Even to a team like Nashville, who doesn't have Ryan Johansson, who's I think crippled offensively, they took it to Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh let them take it.
And Matt Murray was dinged up for a short time there, because it happened right in front of me, and Nashville never took advantage of that. They never even tried to take advantage of that, because he wasn't moving well for a little while until the pain went away, and that was just something that was inexplicable why they didn't do that.
Yeah,
that was the only 2-minute segment that Pittsburgh dominated the puck in the second and third period.
To me, the first period is where you saw the dreaded experience word. Like that's where you saw the Predators nervous. You saw the Predators, realize that when they didn't get the first goal, that more than losing the first goal, the break from losing the first goal, how long it took to determine whether or not that goal was lost, hurt the Predators. I think 4 minutes. I think those 4 minutes hurt the Predators more than actually having the goal taken away. Like had the goal been just eliminated right off the bat and said, "Oh, no, it's offsides," I think they would, and that gave the Penguins time to just gain composure, and their experience took over from that point, and you saw it in that period.
I think after the 4 minutes, if they get that goal, I think it's different. If they
I don't even know.
Right.
It took 4 minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's different for sure, but you also get the Penguins also get a long time there to talk about what's going on. They get a long time to talk about it, and the Predators had a long time to basically just sit back and say, we're doing really well. And then, because the team that's playing worse at that 4 minute break has a much bigger advantage than the team that's playing well. So,
but here's something that we have to talk about. So when you're talking about that dreaded experience, Nashville for a period and a half, really into a little portion of the third period, Pittsburgh was tired. And it's funny because a couple minutes after I wrote Pittsburgh is tired, they scored a goal. But that's because they just dug deep, and also Pekka Rinne really misplayed that shot by Jake Gunsel. It was a combination of that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, you can't – I know – what did they end up having, 12 shots?
11. Four goals on 11 shots.
Yeah, right. But that goal was the typical butterfly, I'm going to go down, I'm going to take the lower part of the net, and Gunsel hits top corner. That's it's inexcusable. I mean, I know.
He also flinched. He flinched a second with his head, and his glove wasn't at the right level after that.
Yeah.
Well, having watched Pekka Rinne very closely, because I follow the Predators very closely for many, many years, I can tell you that he's a much better goalie when you take 30 shots on him than when you take 12.
Oh yeah.
And he's just that's the way he is, right? That is his MO. So I was nervous about the fact that they hadn't had a shot for 35 minutes. Like that to me was something that I really felt as if this is good. This is not a good thing for the Predators. The Predators have to get a lead. I kept thinking they can't just come back. But can we talk about the fact that a team that's trying to come back from 3 goals could hold another team shotless while they're doing that? That to me is the most.
But I also think Sullivan played into that with the strategy, with a failed strategy.
And I mean, and the Penguins, it wasn't as if they couldn't have taken shots in those 35 minutes. That's the other crazy thing about it.
They passed up. They passed up shots.
They passed up shots. They passed up shots, and they looked for the right. And I don't know what. It was almost as if they
didn't pass up. They didn't pass up shots on a power play. They just couldn't get the shots. I mean, I don't know how many shots the Predators blocked on that power play, but they couldn't even get the puck through to the net on the power play.
But here's the thing. Okay, so that's another good point by Mike. So I looked at some of the other stats. Going into it, I felt like the center position was so tilted, there was no way Pittsburgh could lose on faceoffs. And for the first period, they were losing. But at the end of the game, Pittsburgh ended up 58% to 42% for Nashville, and that's a pretty big gap. So that's something where we would expect that. Now, I think the failed strategy by Peter Laviolette is all the block shots, because they had 14 block shots to Pittsburgh's 8. And every team that tries to make the mistake of not letting the puck get to the net because they're trying to slow down the Pittsburgh offense, just let your goalie do the work. Who cares if he has to make 50 saves? By blocking those 14 shots, they probably took Rinne out of his rhythm.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, but we're in a league that no one will not do that. Like that's everyone. Everyone in this league will block every shot they can possibly block. And
but there's one thing. There's one thing to block shots from the slot. There's one thing to block shots from the face-off circle, from the half boards. You don't have to block every shot from the point. All you have to do is clear the front of the net so the goalie can see it. And 99 times out of 100, the goalie's going to stop it. But when you're trying to, when you're blocking Justin Schultz and Ian Cole's shots, I don't care about that. Block Sidney Crosby, block Jake Gunsel going in on a 2-on-1. Those are the chances that you should try to block, but not every single thing. The goalie is competent. Let him stop the puck.
And the most dominant guy on faceoffs with more than just one, like your guy that wins like the one faceoff because someone gets kicked out of circle, was Malkin. And see, they don't have an answer for Malkin.
No, they don't.
No. They can match up Crosby and Fisher, and they'll win their fair share of faceoffs. But with Malkin, they're not win.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I mean, for the faceoff circles, the Penguins are going to own the series. That's no question about that. But everywhere else, though, I mean, it was fascinating because I don't know, the Predators they did what the Ottawa Senators did better than the Ottawa Senators did it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Penguins had more giveaways. The Nashville had more takeaways. So that part is what you would expect.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if we should rename him Colton Druce or Colton Contos. But this is the negative thing for Nashville. You got a goal out of Freddie Gaudreau, a goal out of Colton Sissons, and your goalie faced 11 shots and you still lost. That's not a good sign.
Well, it depends on how you look at it, Mike. I mean, that could be. You could say the same thing, that you got goals out of these players that you need to get goals out of, and that's what you got. I mean, that's where you got goals out of, and you only gave up 11 shots. I mean,
right.
And I mean, to me, there's, I really don't think if you're the Predators, and Laviolette said as much, you have no problem with that game last night, because honestly,
I'm going to give you an anomaly for a stat, and I haven't noticed this in a long time. I don't remember in a Stanley Cup game a team being minus 16 like Nashville was. That's an oddity.
Minus 16. So, well, they scored
as
two
a
power
team.
play
They
goals.
were minus 16.
Yeah, they scored 2 power play goals, and it makes sense. I mean, you're right. I mean, I think that they just, I mean, at the end of the day, really, they outplayed the Penguins for most of the game.
Right.
And,
They did.
Right.
And,
They did.
And the fact of the matter is that's the first game of the series.
Right. And I'm not disputing that. I'm saying Nashville dominated, easily 38 minutes of that game. They were the better team for almost 2/3, and then they still lost. I mean, what I'm saying is that if you should win a game if you dominate 2/3 of it, outshoot the other team over 3-1, and get goals from guys you don't expect to get goals from, but they didn't. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, they need to repeat that formula, and they need Pecorine to make a few more saves.
But when they need Pecorine to make the saves for sure, but they're not going to, it's a tough one. But at this point, you have to sort of accept the fact that the guy.
Well, here's the thing. So here's another strategy. Mike Sullivan was matching up Sidney Crosby against Irwin and Yannick Weber, the third pairing.
Right.
It worked out great. If you're Peter Laviolette, do you break up your second and third pairings, or do you just not play your third pairing very much at all?
No, I think you play. I mean, honestly, at this point of the season, you should be playing your top 2 pairings probably 26 to 27 minutes, and limit Irwin and Weber to what, 8-9 minutes?
Yeah.
Maybe,
because they got killed, and Sullivan is just waiting for that pairing to be out on the ice, and when Irwin and Weber are out on the ice, then Crosby is out on the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I was saying before I got blocked out by Google was that at some point you accept the fact that the guys that are getting the goals for the Predators are the guys you're going to get goals from. I mean, that's what's happening, and that's what's been happening for a couple of rounds now. So these guys are, I mean, who are you going to get goals from when you've got, the players that, like, when you have Johansson out of the lineup, you can
Forsberg, Neal, Arvidsson,
and your defensemen, but you're gonna. These guys have been getting goals. I mean, they've been getting goals. I mean, Gaudreau, they've all had their moments. Sissons obviously had his big moment. Yeah,
but here's the thing. So if I'm Peter Laviolette, sitting on the outside, I got to tell you, and I got P.A. Parento. Do I really need Cody McLeod in there? I think one of those guys is going to provide me more offense.
Yeah,
I think he's going. I think Cody McLeod's been really good, and I don't think he's going anywhere with them. But I think the way they look at him right now is
for the whole 7 minutes and 46 seconds he played.
No, I know, but for that kind of game, McLeod has been in that kind of game, where he plays 7 minutes, and there's other games where he plays 15 minutes, and it really has to do with the kind of game you're in. Maybe if the series goes along and there's no need for him, but I think that McLeod is the kind of guy they're going to have to throw up against Malkin and those kind of guys. They're going to have to.
Yeah, I don't know if Laviolette's if he has enough confidence in Cody McLeod to be able to cover Malkin. I mean, the one thing is
I don't know about that.
He has no choice. I mean, you have nobody else with size to do it, and and McLeod has proven that he can actually play a 2-way game in this playoffs.
I don't know if he can keep up with Malkin. That's the problem.
Right.
But
not one-on-one, but in the corners, along the boards he can, and that's where you're gonna look at it. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And Craig Smith played. I meant like Parento. I would play Parento over McLeod.
Yeah, and see the thing is that, and not to say that the inclusion of Cody McLeod is the difference between the winning and losing, but in the series against Anaheim, he was there to neutralize or match Jared Boll. There is no Jared Boll in this series. Unless Mike Sullivan decides to put Sestito out there, there is no Jared Boll in this series for McLeod to be
more than that, though. He's more of a skilled player than that, though, Mike. I think he's not just that. I mean, I don't think that's the only reason he had him out there. And I think that the problem with Parento is, I mean, I'm not an anti-Parento guy at all, but I think that one of the things with Parento that you look at quite clearly is that Parento is just like many, many players they have on that team. McLeod is different. Like McLeod is a different size, different kind of player. Laviolette, the way he is, he's not gonna take all of his size out of the lineup. He's not gonna take his big player out of the lineup. Especially, if you're gonna have 7 minutes out of Parento or 7 minutes on McLeod, then you can. If the game goes a certain way, you need McLeod more than you need Parento.
Well, then maybe
you've got 100 Parentos on your team.
Then take Fiddler out.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Then take Vern Fiddler out. I mean, I'm just saying. You need. I've seen Parento play a lot. Obviously, he played with the Leafs for a year. He's a skilled player. He's a good power play guy. And when you don't have Johansson around, and I think that you need, even if it's on the second power play, you never know when you're going to need that goal, that extra goal. So
between McLeod and Fiddler, you had one shot on goal between them.
Yeah. No, I'm not. Maybe Fiddler's.
If you put Parento out there, he'll get at least 5 shots on goal.
Fiddler. Yeah, I mean, there you're looking at players that are similar in size. I mean, Fiddler's bigger than Parento, I guess, but not crazy bigger than him. I think that he needs the size. He needs the size. There's too many big players.
If it's possible, if it's possible for Pittsburgh to have won that game and gotten a wake up call at the same time, I think that's what happened here. Because even Sullivan said we stunk. We didn't play well.
No, I think that's very possible, and that's why I have a tough time saying what we really learned from the game. That's my whole theory on this. Did we learn that the Predators can dominate the Penguins, or did the Penguins learn how not to play against the Predators, or did we learn because for the Penguins not to play that way against the Predators, Penguins have to do something that they don't like to do, which is open it up against the Predator. And if they open it up, then the Argon. They'll have more success. Where the Penguins had success was when they did attack the Predators, and they did that through at the end of the first period. But Sullivan and the Penguins. I apologize. Been a day. Sullivan and the Penguins hate to play that way in the playoffs. They always have.
Okay, but they're a team that definitely adapts, and at the end of the day, the will to win, which is what won this game for the Penguins, is greater than most teams in the NHL, and that's going to be a big problem in Game 2 because now you've now spotted a game to the Penguins at home, and if you don't win the second game, the pressure mounts even more.
Right. No, I don't disagree. I mean, the second game it becomes absolutely enormous because it puts
now this game is like huge.
Yeah, and and it would have been anyway. I mean, it's the Stanley Cup Finals for crying out loud.
Sure.
Every game is
not all right. I'll take away the word huge. Now it's vital to win.
Yeah, I mean, it would be okay. It would be easy for Nashville to get up for Game 2 if Pittsburgh had cleaned their clock. If Pittsburgh had won 6-1, they could just sort of wipe it from their minds and say, okay, we didn't do it. We didn't have a great effort, and we lost. Now we got to turn around. But they had a good effort. They played well. They should have won this game.
But here's the thing, though, and I don't disagree with you, but I know Laviolette so well enough to think that his strategy here with them is the same idea as if they had been blown out 7-0. He's telling them that they got screwed out of that game. That's what he's telling them and he's getting them angry at that. Like that is where the anger is. The Predators' anger is the fact that there's that the offside goal, the Crosby hit, the 5-on-3, then the Crosby interference on the 5-on-3. That leads that, and then a fluky goal off their own player, which almost happened a couple times in that game. But that happened. It scores one. Ekholm scores the one out against his own team. Laviolette's getting them angry at he's gonna play all those NHL things. He's not gonna do it in public, but he's gonna play all those NHL things behind the scenes. He's gonna be like, oh yeah, I know Crosby and the Penguins. I coached against them forever. You're gonna have to deal with this. They're gonna it's the world against you. That's how he's gonna go, and that's where he's gonna draw the anger.
But sure, but conversely, I'm gonna have guys shooting from long distances against Rene, and I'm gonna have guys like Bonino buzzing past him to try and bother him early because he never got into the game last game.
Right, but that the problem with that strategy against Rene is actually the best strategy against Rene is what they did. Which is and they didn't do it on purpose, but the best strategy against Rene is not to buzz him.
Yeah, I know, but you can't like that. You can't guarantee that. You can't bottle that. That's just what happens. The more you get in his face, the more angry you get. Rene, the better he plays. But here's the thing: we don't know. Rene never played a settled game. He didn't have enough shots. We don't know how he's really playing under Stanley Cup pressure. So now I've got to test that guy. I don't care.
Right. It's another thing we don't know, and that's why that's just that you're right, 100%. I mean, I don't think we have any idea what's going to happen in Game 2. I don't. I think my feeling. I don't think
we do either.
My feeling is it goes back to like a 2-1 Ottawa type game, and someone's going to come out with it. But that's my gut feeling. But that's because the Predators will continue. The Predators' defense is good enough to stop the Penguins. That we saw clearly.
Yes.
So that the fact that they are good enough and the Penguins know that they're good enough means the Penguins are going to have to open the game up. Penguins are going to have to attack them more. They're going to have to try to, if they're attacking them more and not up 3-0 where they can sit back and not attack them. Right. But they're, then we're going to see how the Penguins defense deals with the speed of the Nashville Predators forwards, because that's what happens. Because the second the Penguins attack, the Penguins defense becomes susceptible to the Predators forwards and forecheck.
Well, the one thing that the Penguins can do to maybe try to stretch the Nashville defense is get a guy like Hagelin in there. Apparently, he was a healthy scratch for Game 1, and he's a flyer. I mean, I think the only way that they can sort of break through that Nashville defense is to sort of open up that gap a little bit and get a guy like Hagelin, like Kessel, hanging at the blue line or blowing past the defense and stretching them out a bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. Here's two other things. So I wasn't that far away from where the guy threw the catfish, and we couldn't tell what kind of fish it was. Like, we had no idea. We knew it wasn't an octopus, but I really could not tell what kind of fish it was because we were a little too high up. But the guy apparently taped it to his leg. Now,
it liquefied when it hit the ice, Russ.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. How gross is that? I would sever my leg after that. And not even think twice. Like, it's just, I don't even want to live that whole time that he walked into the building, start jumping up and down and waiting to throw that catfish. It was dripping on this guy's leg. That's disgusting.
Yeah, we're getting to the point now, Russ. We're gonna have like full body cavity searches to get into the arenas because people are strapping things to their legs. Come on, it's.
The fact that a hockey fan can stink that much and get into a game is pretty amazing.
No, it was sealed. He had a plastic sealed, so you couldn't smell.
He had a plastic seal. Yeah. But and then here's another thing. So during that time, the Penguins didn't have a shot. All of a sudden, a shot was added, and people thought, "Wait, are the NHL manufacturing a shot for the Penguins?" And they gave him a shot from the previous period at the end of the period.
I know they gave him a first period shot. And I'm thinking to myself, is someone going back and reviewing those? I never.
That's what it seems like. Yes.
Well, I call upon the Environmental Protection Agency to go to the P&G Paints Arena, not only to clean up the fish, but to arrest Horn-Man for noise pollution. Because last night he was obnoxious.
Horn-Man, by the way, is the Penguin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Arrest them.
But here's the problem, Nick. To the right of me was Horn Man, behind me was Drum Man, and to the left of me was Tambourine Man. Enough with these people just making extraneous noise. Can't you just watch a game?
And if I was in the arena, I would have been Horn Assassination Man. I mean, it's so annoying. Just stop.
It is annoying.
And the thing was, the way the game played out fed into Horn Man because Pittsburgh was basically comatose for the second and third period. So every break he was going, I mean, come.
So I do have two other fun facts. So the other day on Twitter when I said Pittsburgh pizza stinks and some people jumped on me, the driver hotel driving me over to the PPG Center backed me up and said, pizza's horrible here. The only place I could go to is 26 miles out of town. So I felt vindicated with that.
Couple news notes here.
Yes.
Scott Stevens has resigned as assistant coach of the Minnesota Wild, citing that he wants to spend more time with his family. It sounds like a politician when they usually resign, so it's probably not that, but whatever. Interesting quote from Caps GM Brian McClellan when it comes to trading Alexander Ovechkin. He says, people are looking for a major solution to what has been going on. I think part of it is that they watch certain things in his game and then it shows up and they say that's not acceptable. He goes on to say, I don't think it makes any sense from an organizational point of view. Maybe at some point, if there's a legitimate hockey deal that came available, but I don't know that that's where we are right now. I just think he's got a history here. He's a big part of the franchise, and he'll continue to be that going forward. That's not a denial. That's saying if there's a hockey deal that makes sense, they will trade him.
It is fascinating that he would say this. I mean, it is that he would just not completely just be like, oh, not really. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like normally what has been, whenever this question has come up, people are just, they're laugh at it, or even if they would consider doing it, they would laugh at it. To me, the whole thing is that he doesn't laugh the thing off. And maybe that's just because of the pressure that the Capitals are under right now. And they realize, he realizes that he has to leave everything on the table. Maybe that's what maybe he wants the fans to think that they're trying everything. Maybe that's,
I guess they are at that point. Like
him actually going to trade Ovechkin, because I don't think Ovechkin getting traded is really all that possible.
I mean, here's the thing: if you're going to trade Ovechkin, you got to get someone like Malkin in return. So there's very few trades that will make sense for Ovechkin.
Well, I agree with what you just said until he just said that, and now I'm saying, well, it might be possible because he didn't deny it. He left it open. I mean,
yeah. No, but I mean, it's strange. I agree. I can't say I can't defend it.
I think it's like a war general. A war general, when he's looking at things and strategizing, is looking at the best case scenario for his strategy and the worst case scenario. And I think the worst case scenario is that, because he has no other options, so he has to do that to change things. So I think that's like last on his list, Yeah.
And over the weekend, we heard talk about Dmitry Orlov possibly going back to Russia, and how that might affect the Caps, and actually in a positive way, Russ, because if he goes, they might be able to keep more of their defensemen because it frees up a spot.
Yep. Nate Schmidt probably doesn't get exposed, and maybe Alsner gets re-signed with Orlov's money. I mean, so that's a great possibility. There was other rumblings though. From Russia, I did get a message about Ilya Kovalchuk, and it looks like SKA has multiple owners. And so one of the owners still wants to keep him and is trying to negotiate a 2-year contract with him.
Yeah. But
the coach isn't thrilled with Kovalchuk, so it's a situation where he's not out of there yet. So when we originally heard that, hey, the Devils, are open to having him back so they could trade his rights, yada, yada, maybe Ilya Kovalchuk was just using that as a negotiating point.
Or what's been coming out in the last day or so. I mean, Elliot Friedman talked about it this morning. He's interested in going to the Rangers. The Rangers are not that interested, according to him. Montreal is a possibility. Like he thought he was going to come over and make big money like Radulov did. And if he's not getting the offers, then he gets his big money in Russia still.
Okay, so at least I got vindicated on that, because when I said Rangers and all these people on Twitter were like, what do you mean? Why are you saying Rangers? And I said that he basically said he wants to go there. And they're like, no, you're citing an old article. No, see, he did want to go there.
Yeah.
Now Ilya Kovalchuk may not come over. We don't know.
I think he will, but you've been vindicated for sure.
But here's the thing. What's happening in the KHL now is like this is their Hail Mary. SKA is loading up.
Yeah.
Other teams are loading up. They don't know how much longer they're going to be in existence like this. And somebody, they're trying to get their last championship in regardless of the cost. And that is going to possibly throw, and they have the Olympics to dangle, and that is going to possibly throw a few teams in flux in the future. We'll see what happens with that.
But it's curious that it's
Mm-hmm.
curious that SKA is sort of forced to do this because they're one of the only teams that have boatloads of money. They're like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the KHL. They can spend money like this to get these marquee players, but they're like the one team that's got in the black, and the rest of the league is in the red.
Right.
How appropriate.
Yeah. I'm getting some really interesting texts about some things too as we speak here. I may have to get off soon, folks.
Okay. Well, let's do the expansion and the prospect.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna let you guys do that for the time being because I'm gonna jump off.
Okay.
I will try to jump back on, but if I don't, we'll thanks for watching the show, and we'll touch base tomorrow. You guys can end the show if this is a couple, and check my blog in the next hour or two because I'm gonna have something up about some stuff that I'm working on here, in the rumor world. So enjoy. We'll talk to you guys. See you tomorrow, Russ.
All right, let's do the expansion draft first, Russ. We got the Dallas Stars. I looked over Dallas. They seem to be a candidate for the 7-3-1. Klingberg, Stephen Johns, and probably Dan Hamhuis. Although they have some younger defensemen. Like I think that they would probably Alexiak is 24 years old. He's an RFA. He started to show a little bit. They have Lindell, who also has to be protected. So maybe
they're going to protect Lindell for sure. Protect
Lindell maybe over Hamhuis and roll the dice.
Yes.
That somebody's that could take a 34-year-old defenseman. But forward, they have to protect Ben and Spezza. They're definitely going to protect Sagan and Cody Eakin, Antoine Roussel as well. Then you go down. I think guys like Radek Faksa, they're definitely going to protect former first-round pick. And the question is though, do they protect Nikushkin? He's in the KHL. There's no sign of him coming back. Even Hitchcock is now.
No, they don't protect him.
If I'm Vegas, I definitely gobble him up and just wait.
Well, that's the thing. So if Vegas gobbles him up during this period, then Dallas is out. That's it. They can't get any more players out of Dallas.
Yep.
So that's not a bad way to go for Dallas, considering they really have a player that has no interest in playing for him anyhow.
Well, not gobble him up in terms of signing him as an RFA because he's technically I think he's an RFA, but they can pick him in the expansion draft as the guy.
Well, that's what I mean. They would get him in this early RFA period, get his rights, and then Dallas would be out of the expansion draft because they already gave up somebody.
Right, and goaltender wise, they have to protect Ben Bishop. They'll be exposing Lettinen and Niemi. Is it possible that that Dallas pays Vegas something to pick one of the goaltenders?
Yeah, but they're not going to pay a first-round pick. They're not doing it.
No, they're not. And especially, they might not pay their own. They might pay Anaheim's. They have Anaheim's first-round pick.
Maybe.
That's give them a first-round pick for Kari Lettinen at 5.9 off your cap, and it's only for 1 year, so it helps Vegas get a first-round pick, get a goaltender who play for you, and then you clear out the salary. You reach the cap floor. I think that's a possibility, but the enticement of potentially getting Nikushkin, I would go past that unless they trade him Nikushkin's rights.
Right, they might do that.
Right. All right. We had a prospect that you wanted to discuss.
Miro Heiskanen. So he's a guy that really came on like gangbusters this year, and it took a little while for everybody to sort of, even though he played in the World Juniors, and he's terrific. When he played with Olli Juolevi, he looked great. He could play the role of safety valve. He could play the role of offensive defenseman. I really like his defense, though. He was able to break up a lot of scoring chances with his good stick work. He's got a great one-timer. He could play the point. He's also one of those guys that could do that shoot pass thing where you don't know which he's doing and can be very effective. His skating's good. He's 6 foot, 174. He's got to fill out a little bit. Ranked 10th, but he could go as high as 3, and it wouldn't shock me. He's gaining so much traction now that it's very possible he could go, before that, and it's very possible he'll be higher on my next list. So he's a guy that's really having not a meteoric rise, but a really nice rise here.
Yeah, and from my studies of the upcoming draft, you have it sounds like there's going to be 3 Finnish defensemen taken in the first round. Vakanainen, Heiskanen, and Välimäki. So I mean, you and I think they all from what I've studied, they're all probably going to be picked in the top 20 or maybe the top 25 at the.
I think they could, top 20 for sure. It's possible they could go in the top 15.
Yeah, especially with defense. I mean, defense is a commodity that people, I think people are coming around to the fact that defense is a commodity that is very valuable, even if you have an excess of it. I mean, look at Anaheim, look at Minnesota. They've stockpiled on defense, and now they're going to reap the rewards because, I mean, even though they're in a little bit of a pickle with expansion, when you have extra defensemen and there are teams that are 3 deep in defensemen and they need more, well, they're going to come calling to you. So that's going to help. And Anaheim has got 3 guys who are exempt, and they still have too many defensemen. So But okay, we'll skip the rumor chart for today because Act is not here. I don't have the ability to show it on the screen. We'll take care of that tomorrow, and we'll keep an eye out on his blog for the rumor that he was getting a message from. So, all right, and we'll preview Game 2 tomorrow on the webcast for Russ Cohen for Act. I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.